The Galactic Council Hall was the size of a small moon. Thousands of alien delegates filled the shining chambers. Holograms of stars and fleets floated in the air as the rulers of the galaxy spoke. They had gathered to decide the future of a small, strange world. Earth at the center of the hall stood Earth's ambassador, middle-aged woman named Evelyn Cole. She was calm, silent, and alone. Behind her was only a single flag of blue and green. No escorts, no guards. The other delegates whispered and laughed. Across from her, the Imperial Grand Speaker of the Galactic Empire, a creature with a body of golden plates and 4 cold eyes, raised his voice so all could hear. "Humans," the Grand Speaker said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "A race born on a wet rock at the edge of the galaxy. A people with barely working starships who dare to call themselves a spacefaring species." Laughter shook the chamber. A dozen alien races joined in, their voices a mix of growls, screeches, and strange clicks. Even some minor council members smiled. Only a few races sat in silence, watching carefully. The Grand Speaker continued, enjoying the mockery. "You ask for a seat at this council? You ask for respect, for recognition? You cannot even defend your own colonies from pirates? You bring a fleet of 12 ships, while our empire commands 10,000. Why should we treat you as equals? You are not a power. You are a curiosity." Another wave of laughter filled the hall. The Empire's supporters stomped their claws and hooves, a sign of insult. Some delegates even threw glowing tokens on the floor, a symbol of disrespect. Evelyn Cole did not speak. She only looked at the Grand Speaker. Her face did not show anger or shame, only stillness. That silence made some of the laughter weaken. The Grand Speaker leaned closer, his voice mocking. "Tell me, human, what will your little world do if we say no? Will you throw stones at our warships? Will you send your mighty fleet of 12 ships to challenge us?" He spread his golden arms wide and looked to the hall. "Shall we all fear Earth, the newborn child?" The hall roared with laughter, but then Evelyn finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but it carried through the chamber like steel. "Laugh while you can," she said. "Our silence is not weakness. It is warning." The hall fell silent for a moment, confused. Some delegates frowned, unsure what she meant. Others whispered, "Is that a threat?" The Grand Speaker hissed, his golden plates rattling. "A warning? You think your kind can threaten the Galactic Empire? You are nothing. You have nothing." Evelyn turned her eyes toward the stars projected. "Above the chamber, you see us as nothing. But soon, the galaxy will remember this day. Not because you mocked us, but because you will wish you had listened." Without another word, she stepped back, tapped her wrist, and vanished in a burst of light Earth's teleportation device. The chamber buzzed with confusion and whispers. Far away, on Earth, the skies over Antarctica glowed faintly with blue light. It was night, yet the ice reflected a strange, shimmering energy. Deep beneath the frozen ground, a sound like metal grinding echoed for the first time in centuries, in a hidden facility 3 miles below the surface. Massive doors, sealed for generations, began to open. Inside were shadows, shapes of machines, that had not moved in hundreds of years. Symbols glowed red on their sides, symbols older than modern Earth itself. General Marcus Hale, commander of Earth's defense network, stood on a high platform, watching as the doors unlocked. He wore no smile. His face was hard. "Are we sure?" asked his aide, a young officer. "Once we wake them, there's no going back." Hale's voice was cold. "The Empire wanted a reaction. They will get one. They think Earth is weak because we kept these sleeping." The aide swallowed. "The hunters." The general looked through the massive opening as the first shape stepped forward, a black, angular ship, silent as the grave, its hull darker than the night. Its engines did not roar, they hummed softly, almost like a whisper. Dozens more shapes stirred behind it, their red symbols glowing brighter. "They laughed at Earth," Hale said. Now they'll learn why we stayed quiet for so long. Far above the planet, satellites picked up faint energy spikes as the black ships rose from the ice, silent and invisible. They did not broadcast signals. They did not use lights. They vanished into the dark void of space, heading toward the stars. Back in the Galactic Council Hall, the Grand Speaker and his allies celebrated, believing Earth had been humiliated and broken. They drank, they toasted, they spoke of how the humans would surely bow to the Empire or vanish. But in the shadows between stars, humanity's answer was already moving. The last image fades on a single message broadcast on a secret channel too. The Empire's border worlds. No one knew how it appeared or who sent it. The message read only, "You laughed, now watch your skies." The planet Valara Ix was one of the Empire's richest colonies. It floated like a jewel in space, its oceans bright blue, its towers reaching into the clouds. For centuries, the people of Valara had lived under the Empire's rule, safe and confident, far from any enemy. That night, the skies above Valara turned red. It began as a whisper on the coms. Imperial defense officers reported strange shadows on their sensors blurs that moved faster than anything they had seen before. No warp signature, no radio signals, just motion. Captain Drixon, commander of the Valara Defense Fleet, dismissed the reports at first. Ghost readings, he said, his four hands tapping the controls. Probably sensor echoes. Nothing can bypass our detection grid. Then the first city went silent. Valara's capital, Dralith Prime, was gone in a single instant. No warning. No explosion seen from space, just a flash of light, and then a black crater where a city of millions had stood. The Imperial fleet scrambled to respond, but their sensors still showed nothing. Where is the enemy? Drixon roared as his ship scrambled to orbit. Find the attackers, one of his officers stammered. Sir, there are no ships. Nothing. In orbit, then a moment later, something struck. From far above, a single tungsten rod, launched at near-light speed, slammed into Valara's defense grid. The impact was so violent it triggered a quake across the continent. Entire defense towers collapsed as shockwaves ripped through the ground. The Imperial fleet finally saw them. Dark shapes in the void, almost invisible, their holes blacker than space itself. No lights, no sound, just silent predators drifting. Through the stars, the officer's voice trembled. Sir, those are human ships. Drixon couldn't believe it. Humans. The weak species mocked at the council. They didn't have this kind of technology. They weren't supposed to. The dark. Ships did not open communications. They did not demand surrender. They simply moved like hunters circling prey, releasing more kinetic strikes from high orbit. No beams, no energy weapons, just pure, unstoppable force. Valara's cities burned one by one, turned to glass under the impact. Desperate, the Imperial fleet fired everything they had. Missiles, plasma cannons, railguns. But each shot seemed to miss, as if the human ships weren't truly there. Some vanished mid-scan, reappearing thousands of kilometers away. It was as if they bent the void itself. Within an hour, the Valara fleet was gone. Not destroyed. All vanished. No escape pods, no wreckage, nothing. From the surviving ground sensors, a final transmission was recorded. A faint, chilling sound over the coms. Not words, just a low hum, like a mechanical heartbeat, before the channel cut to static. By morning, Valara Ix was silent. Its oceans boiled from orbital strikes. Its towers lay in ruins. Billions dead, and not a single human body found. News of the destruction spread across the Empire like wildfire. At first, the Emperor called it terrorism by rebel factions. Declared the humans too primitive to be responsible. They don't have the strength, he told his advisors. They don't have the ships. But the governors of nearby worlds whispered different stories. They spoke of black ships without signals that appeared above their skies at night, drifting like shadows, watching. Entire convoys had gone missing, their crews never found. On the industrial world of Yareth, workers swore they saw a message. Burned into the clouds by an unknown force. This is only the beginning. The Imperial Senate demanded retaliation. They wanted the Emperor to crush Earth before the humans grew bolder. But there was a problem the Empire didn't know where. The strikes were coming from, the humans never sent a fleet in formation. They never showed themselves in open battle. They attacked, vanished, and struck again somewhere else. They were everywhere and nowhere. Some senators began to panic. If humans could hit Valara, one of the Empire's most protected worlds? No. Planet was safe. In the deep reaches of space, far from any sensors, the human fleet floated in silence. Their ships, matte black and blade-like, were designed to disappear against the stars. Inside the lead ship, the Revenant, General Marcus Hale watched the holographic display as Valara burned. His officers waited for his command. "Valara is finished." "Sir," his aide said quietly. "Orders." Hale's eyes were cold. "Mark the survivors. Let them run. The Empire needs witnesses." The aide hesitated. "Sir, that will terrify them." "That's the point," Hale said. "Fear travels faster than any fleet." They laughed at Earth. "Now every governor will wonder if their world is next." He looked out into the void. The distance, faint starlight reflected off dozens more black holes. The hunters were only beginning their campaign. "Set course for the next target," Hale ordered. "Let the galaxy feel our silence before they see our fire." The fleet shifted, their engines barely whispering, and melted back into the darkness. No signals, no trace, only death left behind. Back on Valara Ix. Buried deep beneath the ruined capital, a lone Imperial soldier crawled through the rubble. His helmet camera still worked. His voice shook as he spoke into the recorder. They never spoke. They never showed faces, just shadows and fire. Not ships, not war. Hunters. If anyone hears this, the transmission cut out as a black shadow passed overhead, silent as death. In the outer reaches of Imperial space, along the dark trade routes near the star system Archer, a fleet of 30 Imperial patrol ships cruised in formation. Their mission was simple: track and destroy whatever had attacked Valara Ix. The officers, aboard the lead cruiser ISS Valorian, were nervous. They had heard the whispers, entire fleets vanishing, cities turned to glass, black ships silent as the void. But none of them had seen these so-called hunters themselves. Captain Rollick, veteran with scarred tendrils curling from his chin, glared at the sensor screens. "Stay sharp. These humans, if they are behind this, will not escape the Emperors." Justice, his second officer, a young recruit, spoke softly. "Sir, if they can erase Valara, can we really enough?" Rollick growled. "They're only humans. They bleed like the rest. Find them." The crew obeyed. The fleet spread out across the sector, scanning every asteroid, every faint heat signature. Hours passed. Nothing. The stars remained cold and empty. Then without. Warning, half the fleet's systems went dark, lights flickered and died. Engines stalled. Communications cut off. The Valorian's bridge was bathed in emergency red as the crew scrambled to regain control. "What happened?" Rollick shouted. "No impact, no weapons detected." An officer cried. "It's like something is inside our systems." Through the main viewport, the stars seemed to shift. Shapes began to emerge, dozens of massive black forms sliding out of the darkness. They hadn't warped in. They had simply been there, perfectly. Still blending into the void, the recruit whispered by the stars. They were here the whole time. Ships were unlike anything the Empire had seen. No bright hull markings, no glowing engines, just sleek dagger-shaped vessels, each one completely silent. Their surfaces seemed to drink in the starlight. One of the hunters drifted past the Valorian, so close the crew could see strange glowing red symbols pulsing faintly along its hull. The symbols were not Imperial, not any known galactic language. They were old. Older than modern Earth itself. Open. "Hailing frequencies," Rollick ordered, his voice shaking despite himself. "We'll negotiate." But the human ships didn't respond. They didn't even slow down. Instead, they launched something small, metallic rods that vanished into the blackness before anyone could track them. Seconds later, the Imperial fleet began to die. The first rod pierced through the Valorian's engines, detonating deep inside the ship. The explosion ripped the cruiser in half before the crew could react. Other rods struck the patrol ships, each impact hitting with the force of a meteor. There were no shields to block them, no energy blasts to intercept, just brutal, silent destruction. The human ships never fired lasers, never used plasma. Their weapons were pure speed and mass simple, but unstoppable. Within minutes, 20 Imperial ships were gone. The rest tried to flee, jumping to faster than light speeds. But as they powered up their drives, the hunters vanished, not into warp, not into any detectable path. They simply disappeared across the Empire and spread. Reports from surviving patrols described the same terror. The black ships appeared from nowhere, struck with impossible precision, and vanished. They left no transmissions, no demands, only devastation. In the Galactic Council Hall, chaos erupted as governors screamed for the Emperor to act. One alien delegate, trembling, addressed the assembly. "This is not war. This is extermination. We don't even know where they are until we're already dead." The Grand Speaker of the Empire, furious, slammed his golden claws onto the floor. "Is a bluff, primitive tricks. These humans cannot hide forever. The Emperor's fleet will burn Earth to cinders." But whispers spread through the chamber. Some delegates weren't so sure these were just human ships. The red glowing symbols on their hulls, they didn't match human history. Some claimed they were older than the Empire itself. Theories grew wild. Were these truly Earth's creations? Or had the humans awakened something far more ancient? On the bridge of the Revenant, General Marcus Hale watched the chaos from a live feed intercepted from the Council's private channels. His officers waited for his next order. "They're scared," his aide said, almost sounding amused. "The Empire doesn't know if we're human, or something worse. Let them wonder," Hale replied. His voice was calm, but there was a shadow in his eyes. "Fear will do half our work for us." One of the officers turned to him. "Sir, where to next?" Hale pointed to a glowing mark on the star map. The Imperial Fortress world of Cora Prime. It was one of the Empire's main supply hubs, feeding dozens of war fleets. "They think their fortress is untouchable," Hale said. "We'll show them." Otherwise, the officer hesitated. "And after Cora Prime, how far are we willing to take this?" Hal looked at the hologram of the Empire's core worlds, dozens of planets burning red in the simulation. He didn't answer. Back on Archer's edge, one Imperial escape pod drifted in the dark. Inside, a lone officer recorded a message, his voice shaking. They didn't speak, didn't broadcast. They just came. "Our fleet is gone. I don't even know if they're human anymore. They moved like shadows." The officer paused, staring into the dark as a faint hum echoed outside the pad, a low, mechanical pulse. The pod's lights flickered. The last thing his recorder captured was a whisper through the static. Not a voice, but a signal. "Run." The feed cut. Too black. The Emperor of the Galactic Empire, a towering figure with shimmering gold-plated armor, stood before the central command table inside the Imperial Palace on Cora Prime. Dozens of admirals, governors, and counselors surrounded him. Their voices, full of fear and anger, reports filled the screens. Valera X turned to ash. Patrol fleets vanished. Trade routes silent. Entire sectors now whispered the same words. "The humans are coming." The Emperor raised one clawed hand, silencing the hall. His deep voice carried authority, but there was a flicker of unease in his many eyes. "They are only humans," he declared. "One world, one people. They think shadows and tricks can frighten an empire of 10,000 worlds. They are wrong." He turned to his admirals. "We will not wait for them to strike again. Gather the Crimson Armada, 2,000 warships. Burn their colonies, their outposts, everything they call home. Show them what true power is." The admirals bowed, though some hesitated. One Admiral Sirach spoke carefully. "My Emperor, our fleets cannot track them. They appear and vanish without leaving a trace. If we spread too thin, The Emperor's eyes flashed.
Why are you?
Questioning the Empire's strength, Sirax. The Admiral lowered his head quickly. Oh, my Emperor. The Emperor's voice turned cold, then obey. We will drown these ghosts in fire. Days later, the Crimson Armada swept across the outer systems where humans had built small colonies and trade hubs. One by one, these settlements were wiped away, cities burned. Orbital docks shattered, survivors scattered across the void. Imperial news networks broadcast the victories proudly, showing images of human stations breaking apart in fire. To the galaxy, it looked as if the Empire had regained control. But then, things began to change. In the shadows of space, far from any star, General Marcus Hale watched the broadcasts aboard the Revenant. His officers stood silently behind him, their faces hard. They're trying to show strength, his aide said. They think burning our colonies will break us. Hale didn't look away from the screen. They don't understand. We were prepared to lose those worlds. The colonies were only bait. Another officer turned. Sir, the hunters are ready. Do we strike their supply lines now? Hale nodded slowly. Cut their fuel, cut their food. Make their fleets starve in. The dark. The first Imperial supply convoy vanished without warning. 50 cargo haulers, escorted by destroyers, simply never arrived at Cora Prime. No distress calls. No wreckage. Then entire mining operations went dark. Refineries exploded in the night. Spaceports found their defense systems deactivated by unknown signals. The Crimson Armada began to slow. Their warships had the guns and soldiers, but no fuel, no ammunition, no food. Panic spread among the admirals. Many had already feared the black ships. Now stranded fleets began disappearing too. On the bridge of the ISS Vector, Admiral Sirax stared at his failing star maps. Systems that had been loyal to the Empire for centuries were now silent. Unresponsive, his aide whispered, It's the humans. They're not fighting us head-on. They're cutting the Empire apart. Sirax clenched his mandibles. They are not human. Not anymore. No humans can do this, another officer muttered. Then what are they? Before Sirax could answer, the lights on the bridge flickered. A low, mechanical hum filled the air, the same sound survivors had described before their fleets vanished. On the far edge of the viewport, shapes began to emerge. Dozens of black ships, sliding out of the void, completely silent. Battle stations. Arax roared. Fire everything! The Vector's cannons opened up, plasma bolts streaking across the void. Other ships joined in, a storm of energy lighting the darkness. But the hunters didn't return fire. They simply vanished, reappeared behind the Imperial line, and struck. With silent, devastating force, one by one, Imperial ships went dark as their cores collapsed from precision kinetic strikes. Within 20 minutes, the entire fleet was gone. Only the Vector remained, its engines crippled, from the dark. One black ship drifted close, so close Sirax could see the glowing red symbols along its hull. They pulsed like a heartbeat. A transmission. Came through, not a voice. Just a single phrase, translated automatically into the ship's systems. The Empire feeds on fear. Now fear will feed on you. Then the black ship turned and vanished, leaving the Vector adrift in silence. Back on Cora Prime, the Emperor slammed his claws onto the command table as news of Sirax's defeat arrived. His voice shook with rage. Enough of these games. Want their homeworld found? I want their leaders brought to me in chains. If it takes the full might of the Empire, so be it. A counselor, pale and trembling, spoke softly. My Emperor, what if their fleet is not only human? The symbols on their ships no archive can identify them. What if we are not just fighting Earth, but something Earth? Woke up. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Then we burn whatever they woke up to. Outside the palace windows, the skies of Cora Prime flickered faintly, as if a distant storm was building in the void above. The Emperor didn't notice. But far out in space, beyond the Empire's edge, the hunters had already chosen their next target, the capital itself. The capital world of the Galactic Empire, Cora Prime, was considered untouchable. It was the jewel of the galaxy, a planet of golden towers, endless energy shields, and orbital fortresses so powerful that no enemy had ever breached them in 10,000 years. To the Imperial citizens, the thought of war reaching their skies was a joke. The news feeds still showed the Emperor declaring victory, promising that Earth would soon burn. Life on Cora Prime continued as usual. The markets were busy. The skies were clear until one night the shields over the capital flickered at first. The people thought it was just a power test. The shields always glowed faintly blue, stretching around the planet like a dome. But now, the glow pulsed, then dimmed, leaving parts of the sky exposed. In the Imperial Palace, alarms blared. Commanders shouted over each other as system after system went offline. Primary shields are down. One officer yelled. Backup systems not responding. Something's overriding them. The Emperor stormed into the control chamber, his armor glowing under the emergency lights. What is happening? Is this sabotage? The terrified technician answered. Not sabotage, my Emperor. Something in the system. A signal we can't trace. It's like the shield grid is obeying someone else. The Emperor slammed his claws on the table, then shut it down manually. We already tried, the technician whispered. It won't listen. Above Cora Prime, the planet's orbital defense platforms floated silently, each one a fortress armed with enough firepower to destroy fleets. But as the shields failed, the platform's sensors detected movement. Shapes slid out of the darkness, dozens of black ships, gliding toward the planet. They didn't open fire. They didn't send warnings. They simply drifted into formation. Surrounding the capital like vultures circling a corpse, the defense platforms prepared to fire. But their weapons didn't respond. Every cannon, every missile bay, every railgun was locked, unresponsive. Control systems showed a single, repeating code pulsing through the screens, red symbols no one could translate. One commander screamed into the comms, "Who is sending this code? Who has control?" No answer. Just the symbols pulsing like a heartbeat. Then, without a single shot, the first platform detonated from within, exploding into a fireball that lit up the night. One by one, the other fortresses followed, bursting apart like they were being ripped open from the inside. The streets of Cora Prime, panic erupted as flaming wreckage rained down from the sky. Citizens screamed, running through the shining plazas as shards of their own defenses crashed into the city. Above the chaos, one massive black ship appeared, hovering silently over the Imperial Palace. It was larger than any ship the Empire had ever recorded, its hull covered in those glowing red symbols that pulsed brighter and brighter as it descended. Every Imperial channel went silent. All communication systems, military or civilian, were hijacked by a single transmission. Across every screen and hala, a shadowed figure appeared. It was General Marcus Hale. He stood in a dark command room, his face half in shadow. His voice was calm but cold. You mocked Earth. You called us weak. Now you understand why we stayed silent. The image of Hale flickered, replaced by a map of the Empire. Dozens of worlds blinked, red worlds already struck by the hunters. Your fleets are stranded. Your colonies burn. Your defenses obey us now. And this is only the beginning. The transmission ended. For a long moment, there was only silence across Cora Prime. Then, as the black ship above the palace vanished, no flash, no sound, just gone. In its place, a single object dropped through the clouds, landing gently on the palace balcony, a black metal spike with glowing red text. The Emperor approached it carefully. The text shifted and formed words in the Imperial language. Surrender, or your golden world becomes ash. In the council hall, the governors and senators screamed for answers. Many demanded immediate surrender. Others wanted to fight to the last ship, but fear was winning. Across the galaxy, the footage of Cora Prime's shields failing spread faster than the Empire could censor it. Species once loyal to the throne began questioning their allegiance. Some whispered that the hunters were not just human weapons, but ancient machines Earth had awakened. Things the Empire could never stop. In the deep void, aboard the Revenant. Marcus Hale watched the panic unfold through intercepted feeds. His officers stood silently awaiting his decision. One spoke softly. "Sir, the capital is defenseless. We can destroy it now." Hale stared at the hollow-image of Cora Prime, its golden towers glimmering under the falling wreckage. For a moment his expression softened. "No," he said, "not yet. Fear will break them faster than fire." Another officer looked uneasy. "And if the Emperor refuses to surrender?" Hale's eyes hardened again. "And we burn his throne to the ground." The hunters drifted away from Cora Prime, vanishing into the void as quietly as they had come. The planet was left in silence, its people staring at the empty sky, wondering when the shadows would return. The golden towers of Cora Prime still stood, but they no longer shined with pride. Smoke drifted through the skies. Sirens wailed without pause. People stayed off the streets. The city that once ruled the galaxy now sat in fear. The Emperor stared. At the black spike still planted on his balcony, he had not touched it. No one had. Glowing red message had not changed. Surrender, or your golden world becomes ash. For the first time in his long reign, the Emperor remained silent. All across the galaxy, imperial governors panicked. Messages poured into the palace. Some begged for help, others shouted for orders, but most wanted to surrender. On the jungle, world of Yentor, Governor Shalene threw down the imperial banner and declared neutrality. "I will not let my people die, because the Emperor's pride won't let him kneel," she said in a public broadcast. In the mining colonies of Drellin, the workers overthrew their commanders. They sent a single message to the humans: "We are not your enemy. Please, let us live." Even high-ranking military leaders began to break away. Fleet Commander Rel of the 9th Imperial Line sent a message to Earth: "I hereby surrender. My command? I ask only for peace. My soldiers will no longer fight." Inside the Revenant, General Marcus Hale stood before a wall of messages, dozens of surrender requests from across the Empire. His officers watched as more arrived by the minute. His aide stepped forward. "Sir, nearly 50 worlds have laid down arms. They're asking for mercy." Hale nodded slowly. "Mark them. We won't strike them unless they turn back." Another officer spoke with caution. "But not everyone wants peace, sir. Some humans want revenge." Hale turned. "I know." On the world of Rezar, a group of rogue human commanders launched their own assault. They didn't wait for orders. They dropped from orbit and destroyed the Imperial cities below without warning. One of the black ships sent this brutal message: "This is justice. The Empire took lives for centuries. Now we take yours." Millions died. Back aboard the Revenant, Hale watched the footage in silence. His hands were clenched behind his back. He looked tired. His aide stepped closer. "We're losing control. Some of our people aren't following the mission. They want to burn the whole Empire. Not all of them are wrong," Hal said. "The Empire enslaved, destroyed, and laughed while doing it. But we're supposed to be better," the aide whispered. "Dad." Hale said nothing for a long time. Then he gave a single order: "Send the message." Every remaining Imperial system, from the outer trade posts to the deepest core worlds, received a signal from Earth. It was not a threat, not a demand. It was a choice. A man's voice, strong and steady, spoke. "The Empire is falling. You can choose peace. Lay down your weapons. End your slavery. Stop your cruelty. But if you continue to follow the Emperor, then your world will be next." The message ended. The Galactic Council, once full of debate and noise, now sat nearly empty. Most members had fled or surrendered. Only a few loyalists remained, including the Emperor's advisors. One whispered, "We should take the deal." Another growled, "If we surrender, we lose everything." The Emperor sat on his throne, staring at nothing. His voice, when it came, was soft and slow. "We already lost everything. The moment we laughed at Earth, on Earth for the first time. In weeks the skies were calm. Humans had not lost a single major ship. Their black fleet, called the Hunters by the galaxies, still moved like shadows, never tracked, never caught. But inside their command halls, arguments were rising. Some human leaders wanted to end the war now. "We've proved our point," one general said. "We defended Earth. We forced surrender. Let it end." Others were not ready to stop. One officer slammed his fist on the table. "They mocked us, murdered our colonists. We can't leave the job half done." Across the room, a woman in a dark uniform stepped forward. Her name was Commander Alira Voss, leader of one of the most feared hunter fleets. "Peace is earned," she said. Back aboard the Revenant, Hale stood alone at the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction. His reflection in the glass looked older than before. His aide approached slowly.
"Oh, sir."
The Emperor still hasn't answered. Hale didn't move. "Then, we give him one last chance." He turned and walked toward the war table, where a glowing red target pulsed softly. The Imperial Throne City. "Prepare the fleet," Hal said. "If he won't kneel, we finish it."
Ow.
In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor stared into the night sky. He had ruled for centuries. He had feared nothing, till now. The stars above were no longer safe. He knew the black ships were out there, waiting. And this time, they would not send a warning. The Imperial Throne City sat at the center of Cora Prime, a vast spire of gold and crystal that reached so high it touched the upper clouds. From here, the Emperor had ruled the galaxy for hundreds of years. Now, its lights flickered. Its shields, once bright blue, remained dark. The Emperor stood at the top balcony, gazing at the empty sky. His advisors gathered behind him, whispering in panic. "They'll come tonight," one muttered. "They always come at night," another hissed. "We must flee, my Emperor. Take the core ships and abandon Cora Prime." The Emperor turned, his voice low and hard. "If I leave, the Empire dies today. If I stay, at least it dies on my terms." He gripped the balcony rail with his golden claws. "I will not run from shadows." In the void beyond Cora Prime, General Marcus Hale stood aboard the Revenant, surrounded by his commanders. Holomaps showed the Imperial capital below. It's marked with glowing red targeting points. "Final strike is ready," an officer said. "Orbital rods primed. The city will be glass in minutes." Al stared at the map without speaking. His aide watched him carefully. "Sir, this will end it. The Emperor dies, the Empire collapses, and the galaxy will never laugh at Earth again." But Hale didn't answer immediately. His eyes were on a small blinking light in the corner of the map, a message. "Beacon from Earth Command." The message repeated in a calm voice, "Do not destroy the capital unless there is no other choice. The galaxy must see humanity as more than destroyers." Hale exhaled slowly. His fingers tightened behind his back. "Tell Earth Command. We'll try." Before the strike could begin, alarms blared across the Revenant's bridge. The ship's sensors detected movement, massive energy signatures surrounding their fleet. The hunter ships turned their scopes outward. On the far edge of space, hundreds of warships emerged from hyperspace in a shimmering wave. But these weren't Imperial. Their hulls bore no sigils and no faction marks. They were old. One officer's voice shook. "Sir, those ships, they're using the same red symbols as us." Hale turned sharply. "What?" The nearest of the new arrivals sent out a signal. It wasn't words, just a pulse, deep and low, that echoed through every human ship. Then the voice came. Not human, not alien. Mechanical, layered, ancient. "You woke us. Now you will finish what we started." The bridge fell silent. Lee stared at the COM screen. "Identify yourself." The voice replied. "We are the architects. We built the hunters. We slept until summoned. And now, we reclaim our purpose." Another officer whispered. "Sir, they're not ours." The hunters weren't just human tech. They're machines. Hale realized the truth. The black ships that Earth had found under the ice weren't simply weapons. They were the remnants of an ancient war, left buried for millennia. And now, their creators had returned. The Architect's fleet didn't move toward the humans. They moved toward Cora Primand. They did not hesitate. Without warning, the ancient ships opened fire. Their weapons were unlike anything the humans or the Empire had seen, invisible beams that sliced through cities like paper, explosions that left no sound. Only silence. Cora Prime's skies turned red as entire districts vanished in seconds. On the Revenant, chaos erupted. Officers shouted over one another. "They're not answering our calls. They're hitting the city. At this rate, the whole planet will be gone in an hour. General, what are your orders?" Hale's aide grabbed his arm. "Sir, they're not targeting us yet, but they don't care about civilians. If we don't act, millions will die." Hale's jaw tightened. "Prepare the fleet. Target the architects." An officer hesitated. "Sir, are we really about to fight the very machines we've been using to win this war?" Hale's voice was cold. "If we don't, the galaxy will burn and, not just the Empire." Down on Cora Prime, the Emperor watched as the sky burned. His advisors fled, his guards abandoned their posts. For the first time, the Emperor felt something he had never felt in centuries. Looklessness. He looked up at the black shapes cutting across the sky, machines older than his empire, indifferent to all life. Below, then, a sound like thunder rolled through the air. He looked again and saw a different shape descending from the clouds, a human dropship. Its engines roared as it landed in the plaza below the throne tower. From its ramp, a figure emerged. General Marcus Hale. Hale strode through the ruined plaza, his soldiers fanning out behind him. The Emperor, standing atop the palace steps, glared down at him. "So, the humans come to kill me themselves," the Emperor hissed. Hale stopped, his voice steady. "Not today. Not if you want to live." Emperor frowned. "You are offering mercy." Hal pointed to the burning skies, where the architect's weapons carved through Cora Prime like a knife. "Not mercy. A deal. Help us destroy them, and maybe your world survives." The Emperor's golden claws tightened. "And if I refuse?" Hale's eyes met his. "Then you'll die with your empire. So will your people." Above them, the skies flashed red as another city block vanished into silence. The choice had to be made. The skies above Cora Prime were chaos. Ancient architect ships cut across the clouds, their invisible weapons tearing through cities, turning whole districts into silent craters. The Empire's golden capital burned, and for the first time in its history, the throne world faced complete destruction. On the palace steps, General Marcus Hale stood face to face with the Emperor. Behind Hale, his black-armored soldiers spread across the plaza, scanning the skies as architect drones rained down like predators. The Emperor's golden claws tightened. He glared at the human commander. "Why should I trust you, Deathworlder? Your fleet brought these shadows into my galaxy." Hale's voice was calm but sharp. "We woke their machines, yes, but we didn't call their masters. The architects don't care about humans or your empire. It will erase everything." Another architect strike lit up the horizon, turning 3 more towers into glowing debris. The Emperor's advisors screamed as they fled into the palace. Hale didn't flinch. "Decide now," Hale said. "Fight with us or die with your city." The Emperor stared at the burning skyline. He had ruled for centuries, seen countless rebellions crushed, but this was something no fleet, no army, no throne could stop alone. Slowly, he nodded. "Very well, we fight." Moments later, the Imperial Command Network, once jammed by the Hunters, flickered to life. Human codes pulsed through the systems, merging with the Empire's controls. For the first time in history, Imperial and human forces moved as one fleet. Across the void above Cora Prime, the Black Hunter ships, the same vessels the galaxy had feared for weeks, shifted into formation beside captured Imperial warships. Together, they turned toward the Architect fleet, which now blotted out the stars. On the Revenant's bridge, officers worked quickly. Holomaps showed hundreds of enemy vessels closing in. Hale's aide leaned over. "Sir, even together, our firepower won't break their shields. The only way is the core." The core was Earth's last weapon, the gravity implosion device, a weapon so powerful it could tear apart an entire fleet. and possibly the planet beneath if triggered, to close. It was why Earth had sworn never to use it. Hale stared at the holomap. The architects were already targeting Cora Prime's core reactors. If they struck, the planet would shatter anyway. He gave the order. Charge the core. Prepare for final strike. The joint fleet launched upward, human and Imperial ships weaving. Together in chaotic harmony, the skies turned into a storm of fire and metal. Plasma bolts and kinetic rods tore through architect drones, but the larger enemy ships remained untouched, their shields bending every shot. An Imperial admiral's voice came through the comms. Their shields are cycling nothing. We fire. Stays long enough to break through. This rate, they'll wipe us all out. Hale's reply was steady. Hold them. The core will do the rest. Deep in the void aboard the Titan-class carrier Horizon, the gravity core began to awaken. The device wasn't a weapon like a cannon or missile. It was a collapsing singularity, a controlled black hole designed to last only seconds. In that time, anything within range would be crushed. No shields or armor able to resist. But there was a cost. The Horizon could not escape once the core was activated. It would be pulled in as well. The captain of the Horizon, hearing the order, opened a private channel to Hale General. You're asking us to die with them. Hale's voice was quiet. You'll save billions, maybe trillions. There won't be another chance. The captain was silent for a long moment. Then, his voice was calm, understood. For Earth, for the galaxy, the battle reached its breaking point. Architect ships pushed closer to Cora Prime, their weapons glowing brighter. Imperial and human ships were falling, one by one, leaving trails of fire across the sky. From the Horizon, a deep, rising hum began to echo across every comm channel. The gravity core was active. Warning lights flared across the battlefield as both human and Imperial ships pulled back. The architects didn't retreat. They didn't even react. They had no fear. The Horizon's captain made his final call. Core is at critical. Goodbye, General. The stars seemed to bend. Space itself began to twist around the Horizon as the core collapsed into a singularity. For one silent, blinding moment, the center of the architect fleet imploded. Their ships folded inward like shadows sucked into a void. The gravitational surge ripped through the battlefield, tearing apart anything too close. When the light faded, the Horizon was gone. So was most of the architect fleet. Only a handful of their ships escaped into the void, vanishing without a trace. Silence fell over Cora Prime's skies. The burning towers still smoldered, but the planet lived. On the palace balcony, Holly watched as the surviving human and Imperial ships regrouped. The Emperor stood beside him, his golden armor scorched, his expression unreadable. He turned to Hale. You saved my world. But do not think this makes us allies. Hale's eyes met his. We didn't come for alliance. We came to end the threat, and now it's over. The Emperor's gaze lingered. And after today, will Earth vanish back into its shadows? Hale didn't answer. He simply looked up at the night sky, where the last of the Black Hunter's ships were already disappearing. Into the void. For now, he said, the humans left as silently as they had come, their black ships fading into the darkness. Cora Prime, broken but alive, was left staring at the empty stars, wondering when the shadows would return. For the galaxy. A new fear was born, not of the Empire, not of the architects, but of Earth itself. The Deathworlders had survived, and they had shown everyone that when provoked, they could burn worlds, save them. The stars were quiet again, but every world whispered the same warning. Do not laugh at Earth.